Hey there fellow creators, Ben here from Cinder Studios, and this week I wanted to make a video talking about my favorite acrylic paintbrush. Stick around to figure out why that's even worth making a video about. So this little short-handled flat brush that's a nice bright blue color, you can see it in a lot of my videos, is my favorite brush that I use when I'm painting with acrylics. And why that's interesting is because this is actually a watercolor brush. At least that's what its original design for and everything like that. It's a 13 millimeter or half-inch Winsor & Newton Cotman one stroke series 666. It's the devil's brush. I love this brush. I use it in almost every single painting I do and have been doing so for at least 5 or 6 years, if not even longer. I actually like this brush so much that I bought a smaller one and a second one last year. Wow, okay. So you might be thinking, alright, that's fine, you can just buy a brush and use it wherever you want. That's actually something that I've talked about a little bit in the past. While I don't take my watercolor brushes that are actually used for watercolor and then use them for acrylics and go back to using them for watercolor, you shouldn't do that, especially, I would say, less so for watercolors, more so for oils, because oils tend to stay in the brush even if you cleaned it really well. So don't like jump between oil and acrylic that way with those brushes. All of my brushes are separate for that reason. But when you go to the store, you can see, like, oh, these are watercolor brushes, and these are acrylic and oil brushes, or these are just oil brushes, but you can buy any of them and use them for whatever you want, within reason, of course, because certain, like, like a stiff hog hair brush that you'd use for oils, you wouldn't be able to really use for watercolors, but whatever. That's a different story. This thing, though, for a long time I was looking for a short-handled flat brush that I could use for my acrylics, and there basically weren't any. Everything was a long-handled brush, something like this. Not that I have anything against this, but these are generally better designed for holding back on the brush and stepping back, especially if you're working on an easel. I don't usually work on an easel, I'm usually working on a table. A lot of times I'm sitting down, especially towards the end of a painting process, so I hold my brush a lot closer to the ferrule, and I'm doing, resting my palm on the canvas, doing more detail work, similar to what you might expect out of drawing techniques. So I needed a brush that could do that for me, and the best thing I could find, I'm like, let's just get a watercolor brush. They're all short handles. Just find one that's the right size, and what I found over the years is this is really effective as an acrylic brush. A couple of reasons why here. Well, big reason, I do the one thing that you're really not supposed to do with your brushes ever, and that's just throw it in your bucket of water and let it sit there. The good thing about watercolor brushes is they're designed to be able to hold water and release it. So this brush is a lot less affected by sitting in the water. I mean, it actually helps to some degree. It allows me to pull those bristles tight with paint or with water, get a nice crisp edge on that, even after all this time. I have brushes that I've had a lot less time that have just completely splayed out, have gotten just... I've ruined nicer, higher quality brushes in less time than I have with this. And I abused the heck out of this brush too. I mean, I abused the heck out of all my brushes. But this one in particular seems to really hold up. I don't normally talk about brush brands and being specific and you have to get this brush versus the other, but the fact that I can do that, and also, like, I thin my acrylics with mostly water. I don't usually use mediums for that, or at least like a fluid medium. A lot of people tell you have to do that. You really don't. But because I do that, and because this brush is designed to work with water as a medium, it's better. It's just better. I'm able to lay down paint better. It picks up and holds the paint better than some of my higher end, more expensive brushes. So I'm almost always reaching for this one. Actually, it's funny, if you go back and watch some old tutorials, or actually I think the most recent painting process video from January, you can see this brush in it. I mean, look back at any of my old videos and look for the blue handle. You'll see it. I'm not shy about hiding it or anything like that. But yeah, this is what I wanted to highlight this week is it's a watercolor brush, and surprisingly, watercolor brushes are very, very effective for acrylic painting. So that's actually it for this week. I just wanted to make this little video to highlight one of my favorite tools for painting, especially here in the studio. And I think I've traveled with this thing in the past too. It's worth checking out and worth doing, looking into other brushes that you might not think of using for your specific media. So if you're used to watercolors, maybe look at, grab a big long-handled brush that you might use for acrylics and see what you can do with that. Or if you're, like me, used to acrylics, you might find that picking up a small watercolor brush is actually really useful for a lot of detail work. I mean, again, there's a lot, I've done paintings with 90% of the work on the piece is done just with this one brush. It's that effective. I'm able to get details, dry brushing, you name it. Any technique, totally possible. So if you enjoyed this or learned something, let me know your thoughts and comments below. Hit the like button. Helps the video out, as always, with every video you watch on YouTube. Check me out in socials in the description box below, including the community Discord, as well as where to buy my art online. Keep on creating. This has been from Cinder Studios, and I will see you guys next time. It's the third time I've had to record this. Audio issue, out of focus. Let's get it right this time.